Have this. It's live. I just got the message that it
Awesome.
is live. Although we're probably going to be working through some sound issues because the microphone in here is not as loud as I think we probably need it to be. Give me one
Gotcha.
second. Good evening. Can you hear me? Very little. Let's see. We might have to make some adjustments to the sound. We're going to have to make a few adjustments to the sound. Maybe turn it up a little. The folks right up front can hear me, but I'd probably be shouting at Dr. Pearce if I speak much louder than this. Give us 1 second, y'all. We're going to work through it. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to spend about the next 45 minutes or so having some fun with Dr. Pearce. So just give us a moment to work through some technological challenges. Just give us a minute. All right. Ready? We're doing some sound. Can you hear me? Awesome sauce. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to see you. It is even more of a pleasure to see you in person. I got a chance this past spring to spend some virtual time with many of you, except for those of you who are new to the campus. My name is Dr. Jennifer Brown. In my day job, I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the executive director of KIPP Jacksonville Public Schools in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. That is a network of free college prep charter schools. And we serve students in kindergarten through 9th grade this year. We have 4 schools that educate nearly 2,100 students. And in the next 5 to 7 years, we will grow to educate about 4,000 students. 95% of the students in my schools are Black, which makes me being here with you even more special. You are what I want my students at KIPP Jacksonville Public Schools to become. So I am so excited to get to spend some time with you this evening. Even more excited about our special guest, Dr. Nicolas Pearce, the author of this amazing book, The Purpose Path. We're going to spend some time talking with him tonight. And I'm just super excited to be able to be here with you all. So thank you so much for having both of us. I want to jump in with Dr. Pearce and first of all, have him do a brief intro and have him tell you where he is joining us from. Dr. Pearce, a pleasure. I can't wait to spend this next 45 minutes with you. Please tell the people where you're joining us from and just a little bit about yourself.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Brown. Good evening to all of you scholars. It is a delight to join you from surprisingly warm Chicago, Illinois. I wish I could be on campus with you all today and hope that before all is said and done, that we'll have the opportunity to meet face to face. But it's truly a joy to be in your company. And much as Dr. Brown said, being with you all tonight is a true joy. I stayed in my office here on campus at Northwestern University extra late on a Friday because being with you all is so important to me. You all are not only the future, you're a very important part of the present. And so to be able to have this conversation tonight means a lot to me. So delighted to be with you all.
Awesome. And I echo that. Definitely impactful on the present day. So before we jump in and start talking about the book, I believe some of the Dowdy scholars also might have some questions. So we're going to save some time at the end.
Great.
I actually want to just start with a practice that I've adopted among my family and my friends and even my employees, a pause and check in. People are going through. This is it's a heavy time right now in human history. And I just like to check in and see how folks are really doing. How is your physical health? How is your mental health? Just how are you doing right now?
I appreciate that question. Today I'm doing fine. The twin pandemics of COVID-19 and, as a friend of mine calls it, COVID-16-19, this
Come on.
whole racism piece. This is a crazy time, and the best we can do is take it one day at a time. I mean, that's all we can do. None of us knows what's going to happen Saturday morning, let alone in 2023, right? One day at a time is all you can do. And so today is good. I'm feeling pretty good, not because I am just hanging out, but because I've rested up. And I think this whole concept of rest is a really important one for us to tackle, because especially for Black and brown folks, we are often sold the myth that if we work hard, that's the only way we can show that we're valuable human beings.
Yes.
And that means then that we look at rest as a necessary evil that we only get to do once we've exhausted ourselves from working hard. And so we work, and then we get exhausted, we burn out, we fall out, and then we're like, I need a vacation.
Right.
I need a break.
I see y'all snap, because that resonates.
Right.
That resonates.
And you're like going to this break on life support because you're literally out of it. And instead, I think a practice we might consider is, instead of working to rest, we might rest to work. And that's not just a play on words. The reason why I feel so good, even though it's a Friday evening and it's been a very, very long and grueling week, is that I'm working from a place of rest. I took the entire month of August as a sabbatical.
Yes, good for you.
Right?
Good for you.
And even though I was not completely exhausted, I am operating now from a place where I don't fall out when I get home, or feel like I'm getting ready to like go over the cliff. Right? I feel like, yes, I'm good tired, but I'm getting rest as an invitation for me to just be a human being and not just engage in being a human doing, right? Where your value is equal to what you do or what you produce or your GPA or whatever. Your value in life is in your being, not just your doing. And so today, at this very moment, I feel fine. How are you doing?
Listen, that was like mic drop, right? I just want to pass around the collection plate and we can all go back to the rooms and go on home.
I saw everybody was all dressed up. We can't send them back too soon.
I thank you for that. That so much of what you said resonates very deeply. I read something the other day. You know how there's this phrase that we've been saying, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Many of us are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And someone responded and said, you know what our ancestors dreamed about? Resting. So many of our ancestors wanted only to be able to sit down, lay down, and get some rest. Right. And that's one way that we can honor them, is by acts like taking advantage of opportunities to rest. So what you said just resonates from a deep place. I am doing well. Florida is a hard place to be. Florida is if you've turned on any news channel at any point in the year 2021, Florida is a hard place to be. Being the executive director who is charged with the education of students in kindergarten through ninth grade is hard right now. That's a hard task. If you think about it, I have a 6th grade daughter. Her last normal year of school was 3rd grade. Think about that for yourself. If you're a freshman, your last normal year of school was probably 10th grade, because the spring of your junior year in high school was COVID. So we haven't done normal school in a really long time, and that's weighing heavy. It feels as if people, now that we are back together, whatever that looks like, people seem to be on edge. There's a certain fragility of people's emotional and mental well-being. So it's a hard place right now. And I am finding ways to practice self-care, even at work. So what that looks like at work for me is sometimes not taking meetings, saying no, to draw some boundaries and preserve and protect my peace.
Yeah.
So I'm doing well and taking advantage of opportunities to rest.
Good.
And I just think that that's so important for us right now. I'm sitting in a room with young people who are extremely ambitious and brilliant. They are going to be this country's next leaders. And I would push you all to pause and truly check in with one another on how you're doing for real. How are people doing for real around you? And that requires us slowing down and being able to do that.
No doubt.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So I also want to congratulate you. I was on LinkedIn and saw that you recently were honored by the Aspen Institute. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes. You won an award called the Ideas Worth Teaching Award. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a phenomenal honor. It was very humbling. The Aspen Institute is a globally recognized nonprofit organization that is dedicated to human flourishing. And one area of the Aspen Institute is their business and society program. And I believe deeply that as we look at the problems that exist in society, whether you're talking about climate change, whether you're talking about racial inequality and injustice, whether you're talking about poverty, I think business has a critical role to play in enabling human flourishing. And so what the Aspen Institute does each year is they look across universities around the world to see who's teaching topics that they believe are speaking to the needs of the moment at the intersection of business and society. And so I was truly privileged to have my course, which I teach here at the Kellogg School of Management, a course that I call Beyond Diversity, the Fundamentals of Inclusive Leadership. That course was honored alongside 7 other faculty from around the world, and they named our courses as having ideas worth teaching. So truly blessed to be named and recognized in such esteemed and distinguished company.
That's amazing. And of course, makes it even more special, award-winning in so many ways. So congratulations on that. That's absolutely amazing. I would love to, at a later topic, dig into Beyond Diversity. Would love to know what the major themes are from that class.
For sure. We got some big themes in there.
I bet. That is awesome. Let's turn our attention to the purpose path.
Yeah.
So I got introduced to this book from my once executive coach, who is now a longtime and forever friend, Dr. Dick Stradane, sent me the book. Didn't say much about it. Just, it's a great read. You should get into it. And read it. So deeply impacted just the way I have been thinking about life and work. In fact, I'm soon to have a meeting with my team. I've got about 25 folks on my team, and I've got some copies that I'm going to be sharing with them. So I want to just take some time, maybe spend the next 30, let's call it about 15, 20 minutes or so, exploring some of the major themes in the book, because I get an opportunity tomorrow to spend some more intimate time with the Dowdy scholars and dig into the pages a little bit more granular level. So for tonight, let's talk about this. We were together in the spring. I interviewed you similarly to what we're doing tonight, but so much has happened since we were last together. The Delta variant of COVID has just rocked our worlds. And this phenomenon that pundits are referring to as the Great Resignation. Folks are contemplating life choices and resigning from their jobs at high and alarming levels. I'm experiencing it in the education industry. The folks who sit on my board who are in various, the medical field, financial technology, every industry is experiencing this. No one is immune to it.
That's right.
I want to explore for a moment this relationship between what you refer to as vocational courage and this great resignation. How do you see these two things working together?
Yeah, wow. Thank you for that question. So the way capitalism works.
Uh-oh.
The way
you about to mess with my coins now.
Listen, nobody coming for your coins tonight. But let's just talk, all right?
Okay.
The way capitalism works, it oftentimes relies on human capital, right? That phrase, human capital, alongside financial capital. These are things you can control to make profit, all right?
Yes.
These are things you are using to make profit. You use your money to make more money, and companies use people. Yes. The idea of capital is that which you own or control. And so much of capitalism relies upon this notion of humans as capital. Sounds like slavery in a way, right? Humans as capital. So if humans are capital, then my job in the capitalistic system is to basically find ways to extract as much value out of you for the minimum viable amount of value returned to you. In other words, I want to get the most out of you and pay you as little as the market will allow.
That's
Care
right.
for you to the minimum viable level for you to survive and not completely just check out, right? That's the way many organizations, many companies run, paying people a wage that they cannot actually use to live their lives. There are people who work full-time jobs, in some cases in management positions,
yes,
who don't earn enough money to live in an apartment and have a fully stocked refrigerator in their own city.
That's right.
Right? People are food insecure. They are functionally unhoused, even though they're working full-time jobs. They're slaving away and don't have what it takes to be able to care for themselves and their families. Then you have other people who are making enough money, but they look at themselves at a certain point. They recognize that their souls are dying because of the work that they're doing. They're doing work that is financially lucrative, but is spiritually and emotionally and psychologically toxic. People are going to work, scoring points for their employers,
yes,
doing all the things that are expected of them. They're checking all the boxes.
Yes.
But then they look at themselves in the mirror and they look at the scorecard of their own soul and they recognize that they haven't done a whole lot when it comes to their own soul. I'm not talking about in a church kind of way. I'm talking about just in what do I count as success and significance in my own life? Am I even paying attention to how I'm keeping score in life? You all have gotten into this room by virtue of the fact that you have learned how to keep score by what other people tell you is important. You don't become a Dowdy scholar by saying, I'm going to pick my own path and turn in the homework assignments I feel like turning in and go to the classes I feel like attending. Like, that's not how you land in this seat. You land in this seat by figuring out at a certain level how to play the game that is put in front of you.
That's right.
And you can continue doing that for the next 10 or 20 or 30 years. And you look at yourself in the mirror and you'll say, maybe I was successful climbing that ladder, but maybe that was a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. Right? I was successful, but I feel like I failed.
Right? You didn't hear that collective.
Yeah, this is real talk. Right. And so what's happening now is that with COVID-19, people are recognizing tomorrow's not promised.
That's right.
Tomorrow is a gift. Today is a gift. What do I do with my one precious life? This is not a dress rehearsal. You're not going to get a do-over. This is it. What am I going to do with my one precious life? To care for myself in all the ways that matter most. And people are looking at their jobs and they're saying, man, this job is causing me physical unwellness, mental unwellness, emotional unwellness. They treat me like a thing and they don't even pay me that much. And even if they pay me well, there's no amount of money you can put on peace.
Ooh.
And so people are saying, I'm out. This great resignation is about people saying enough is enough. This is a time, you all, when the system that you perhaps grew up taking for granted is changing.
Yes.
The rules of the game are changing. People talk about they want to go back to normal, whatever pre-COVID normal was.
Yeah.
Not happening.
That's right.
It's not happening. Because truth be told, some of the pre-COVID normal was jacked up. Some of that we shouldn't want to go back to.
That's right. That's
right. So we're moving forward. People are saying, look, I'm willing to take the risk and preserve my own spiritual and psychological and emotional well-being. I'll find another job. And so this is what they're calling the Great Resignation. How does this connect with the idea in my book that I call Vocational Courage?
Yes, yes.
Right. Well, let's deal with these two words separately. Vocation in American vernacular has often been reduced to this notion of a blue-collar trade or craft kind of job. And that's not what vocation is. Now, I have nothing against blue-collar trades at all. My great-great-grandfather was only able to get a second-grade education because he had to care for his family at a young age. So I'm not suggesting that those of us who come from households where our parents didn't get to pick what they want to be when they grow up are somehow on the wrong side of this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying vocation is not equal to that. Vocation actually comes from a Latin word that means calling. Thus, the idea of vocation is not even just what career you pick. The word career comes from a French word that means racetrack. And if you ask some of your parents and aunts and uncles and older siblings, they'll tell you sometimes being in a career can feel like they're on a hamster wheel.
That's right.
Going around and around in circles. Those of you all who run track, you know this. You start the race and you finish the race in the exact same spot. And while you may get a medal for your effort, you don't see the progress. You stop in the exact same spot you started. Vocation is bigger than career. Vocation is about your life's work. What is your why? Why are you alive? And what are you going to do about it? And that's where the courage piece comes in. Vocational courage is about having the commitment to faithfully pursuing your unique why, your unique life's work. This requires clarity on what your why is. And I hope that the book can assist in that process. But clarity is only half the equation. Courage is the other half. Courage is, I'm willing to make the tough choices to connect my soul with my role. I'm willing to make the hard choices to connect what I do every day with what I feel like I'm called to do with my life. And you're in a really great position to be on that journey as Dowdy scholars, because education at its best should be preparing us not just for a job that we can get paid to do. Our education should be preparing us, you all, to do the work with our lives that we can't die without having done. Right? And when you think about education that way, nobody has to motivate you to go to class. And no one has to tell you, why is this class important? because you have a vision for what you're trying to do with your life and how this education is equipping you, preparing you, positioning you with the skills, the knowledge, the connections to be able to execute on your life's work credibly and excellently. And so that's the connection. You won't find yourself stuck in the Great Resignation when you recognize that your employer is not just employing you to do a job for them, but you are employing them to give you a platform on which you can accomplish your life's work. That way, you're living free. You're not on autopilot. You're living free. And then you will truly be your ancestors' wildest dreams. Not just resting, but being free.
That's so good. There are so many nuggets in what you just said. I want to pull out, you're not too young, even if you're in your freshman year. It's not too late if you're in your senior year and you'll soon be going into the workplace, to start thinking about, who do I want to be rather than what do I want to do? You talk about this in the book, and how this group of students avoids in 10 years, 15 years, being on that hamster wheel and becoming a part of what might be the second Great Resignation. They're not too young to start thinking about that. What does that look like in practical terms for Dowdy scholars on the campus of North Carolina A&T University?
Yeah. What are you majoring in and why? Now, I know some of y'all are like, look, I'm a senior. Like, that shit has failed, bro.
I'm not staying here another year.
Like, this is really interesting. Please miss me with that. But there are some of us who are out here on autopilot saying, well, I'm majoring in, what my high school counselor told me to major in. I majored in what I looked up online was the most lucrative major, right? Some report said, the average salary for majors with, chemical engineering degrees is, X, and, underwater basket weaving degrees pay X divided by 25. And so I'll go with engineering. That was kind of my story, right? When I graduated from high school, the conversation was very much about, what do you want to be when you grow up, and how do you get off of your mother's payroll, right? And so getting a chemical engineering degree was, well, you're good at chemistry, you're good at math, put them together, and what do you get? But sophomore year, I was doing a lab experiment with these zebrafish, and long story short, it made me start asking questions about people and organizational systems and leadership. And I recognized I was in the wrong lab.
Wow.
So I got my degree because I had scholarship money attached to it, and circumstances are real. But I started pivoting some of those elective courses that I was able to take. And so I wound up signing up for courses at Harvard Divinity School because I knew I was called to ministry. And I started taking classes at the Sloan School of Management at MIT, which was ultimately where I got my first foray into organizational behavior, which I didn't even know it was a thing before. And I started studying how organizations function. And then I saw, well, maybe I could get a PhD in this. And that's how I became a business school professor, in part. That's the short version of the story. Wow. So this is just about being intentional about what you do, being intentional about your internship opportunities, being intentional about the courses you take, not being on autopilot. Now, I get, for those who may be later on, you're like, well, what about me? It's not too late. You may have your major sewn up, and you do want to get out of school and start making money and not be on the broke bus. I'm here for that. You try to get off the struggle bus. But how you even choose what career path you take can be very important.
Yes.
How you make choices around where you're going to spend your 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Are you being intentional? And here's a piece of advice that I received from a professor at Harvard Business School named Francis Fry. Francis brought a bunch of rising seniors into her classroom, mostly Black and brown, and told us, Black and brown people too often rely on the security of brands to validate them. Don't
Say it one
rely
more
on the
time.
security of a brand to validate you.
Which
You are
brand?
smart. You have options. You don't need to work at the fanciest brand name company just so you can feel good about yourself and go home. Go to a place that you can grow, thrive, and flourish. Right? And so that's a decision you can make, even if you're late in the game.
And I wonder if our pursuit of that is because for so many years we were denied access to some of those things. But to your point, it's not worth it to compromise peace of mind, worth, feeling as if your worth is valued, to chase that brand, that company name. That's right. Big. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm saving time for some questions. I've got one more question, and then I want to open it up to the Dowdy Scholars. So you've mentioned you got a lot of jobs, man. You said professor, pastor, consultant. You've got this hybrid career thing happening, which I think is amazing. Talk about the strengths that you bring to those roles. The scholars are engaging also in identifying the strengths that they have based on Gallup.
Great.
And how they begin to think very intentionally about showing up in their strengths in class, in their future vocations. I'm interested in knowing, I'm sure there's a through line in all of those three paths. And what are the strengths that you bring that make that kind of career, that hybrid career, possible?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to comment on the concept of strengths-based leadership. And I think as Black and brown people, we are often trained to look at ourselves through the lens of deficit and deficiency and not to appreciate strength.
Yes.
And if we actually take stock of our strengths and appreciate them, then we are viewed as being arrogant and not being humble. Because we're supposed to walk around with our heads bowed down, just grateful for an opportunity, grateful for a crumb. Right? I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. And I'm not suggesting that we need to go to the other extreme and be arrogant and act like, we are God's gift to the world.
That's right.
I think there's problems with that too. But I don't think we have to go around acting like people are doing us a favor by giving us opportunity. Right? Because the truth is, they wouldn't give you the opportunity if there wasn't value that you were providing in exchange for the opportunity. Nobody's out here handing out opportunity just to feel better. You all have worked hard, you've earned it, and you are positioned in a great moment in human history to be young, gifted, and Black. Yes. Walk in it, own it, and own your strengths, and don't apologize for your strengths. Doesn't mean that you ignore your weaknesses, right? If your weakness is like not having integrity, you need to work on that, right? So we don't want to take the strength paradigm too far. However, take stock of your strengths and own them. Own your brilliance, own your genius. Don't apologize. Now, how does this show up for me? Well, you mentioned I'm a pastor, I'm a professor, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm CEO of a company. And for a lot of people, that sounds like three different vocations.
Yeah.
Right? Here's that vocation word again. Oh, well, now how can you be a pastor and a business school professor at the same time? Like, don't those not agree? Like, our business school professors are only concerned about money and pastors supposed to be concerned about souls? Like, how do you do that? And as it turns out, what I've discovered is that really I don't have three vocations. I have one vocation. It just plays out on different platforms. Mm. The university affords me a platform to teach. And I try to do that to the best of my ability because I want to score points on their scorecard. But I'm very clear that developing and pouring into the next generation and the current generation of leaders to shape the workplaces that people go to every day, that's part of my life's work.
Yes.
I also recognize that as a pastor, caring for people's souls and creating ecosystems for people to be able to thrive, not just spiritually, but also naturally from a civic engagement and leadership perspective is part of my life's work. And so being assistant pastor of our church affords me the opportunity to make good on part of my life's work. Same thing with starting a company. Now, I don't go in the classroom and leave my soul in the parking lot. I also don't go in the classroom and teach like it's a Bible class, right? When I go in the pulpit to preach, I don't leave my brain at the door.
That's right.
I don't stop being an academic. I don't stop thinking about organizations and leadership just because I'm in a pulpit, right? I am no less a pastor in the classroom. I'm no less a professor in the pulpit, and I'm no less a pastor or professor when I'm in the boardroom. I bring all of me, this unique blend of seemingly disparate threads that have come together to make me me. I bring that wherever I go. And my clients tell me that's my secret sauce, that I don't leave part of myself in the parking lot. I don't check part of myself at the door. And so I'm able to integrate all these pieces of myself, the gifts, the strengths, the skills, the insights, into a cohesive whole. And this is what Parker Palmer calls living an undivided life, where you don't partition yourself, right? And some of you all have seen this during the working from home era, right? Where you were big brother or sister and student and daughter or son and friend and dog walker, like all in the same hour, right? You got to make sure your little siblings stay focused on Zoom school, but you're trying to stay focused on Zoom school, and your mama is trying to, like, it's a lot going on. And so instead of trying to partition yourself, what we're seeing is that people are trying to live more integrated, more whole lives, right? Where they're not trying to balance pieces, but they're trying to live whole. They're trying to live integrated. And so my hope is that in whatever professional path or paths you choose, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, you were authentic, you were true to you, not in a kind of I'm dismissing other people and I'm just going to do me kind of way, but that you were being authentic to the deepest, most critical, most essential part of you.
So good. That is so good. All right. I want to give them a chance to be able to ask you some questions. So I believe there are microphones available if you have a question for Dr. Pearce. I would say take advantage of that. I also have some questions that are coming up in a chat. So if there aren't live questions from the scholars in the room, I'll go to this, but I do want to just give a moment. I think I see a hand raised. Yes. Okay. How do we would you like them to just in your loud and proud voice and I'll translate for Dr. Pearce if you can't hear off the camera.
All right, can you hear me a little bit? I can be kind of loud if I need to be louder.
I hear you very faintly.
Okay, well, this will be.
I got you covered.
So my question is in regards to vocational courage.
Vocational courage.
I see a lot of people trying to monetize their hobbies. They think that
trying to monetize hobbies.
So I can make money at this, but sometimes they take that and they're like, they start doing it and they realize they shouldn't be doing it as a gig for them to be able to sustain themselves. So how do we go about avoiding that trap of trying to monetize the stuff we're good at and separating that from being kind of our vocational cause and just being a regular hobby? That's
a great question.
You got a great question.
That's a really good question. I just had to turn up the volume on my speakers, but I can hear you clearly now. Excellent question. So monetizing what you're good at is kind of the traditional path of job or career. But that often leaves the question of, is it contributing to human flourishing? And is it meaningful to you? Then people kind of rotate to passion. And I actually am not a fan of working your passion. I'm not saying that you can't be passionate about your work, but when you try to make your passion the kind of central piece of what makes you go to work, that's really about what makes you happy. And what I find is that when people organize their lives around what makes them happy, they tend to avoid the kind of painful circumstances that are actually most helpful in making them better people. So if we organize our lives around avoiding pain, what we might actually be doing unwittingly is organizing our lives around avoiding purpose.
Come on, Pastor.
So we might not want to go down that path. One of my colleagues here at Kellogg did some research on this and found that when people take what they love to do as a passion and monetize it, they actually lose their motivation because they lose their pure love for the game. It's just like some people who love swimming or basketball or football, and it got them a scholarship, and now they've got to perform to keep their scholarship. They don't love the game the same way they used to. Not in every case, but in many cases. Because once money gets confused in the conversation, what used to be intrinsically motivating for you now becomes extrinsically motivating, and it doesn't jazz you in the same way. So if you want to keep it a passion, if you want to keep it something you love, actually keep the money out of it, right? Make this about the pursuit of purpose. And while you can be passionate, I'm not suggesting we live a life that's unhappy and dispassionate. Like, oh, I hate my life, but it's purposeful. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is let happiness be a byproduct of a life well lived, not the goal of life.
In avoiding pain, we might avoid our purpose unwittingly. That's a word, y'all. That's a word.
Hey.
What a great question.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thanks for asking.
Thank you so much for asking that. Okay. Gentleman in the back. Do you want him to come up? Oh, okay. Awesome.
Oh, I was just wondering, as far as differentiating between your purpose and your interests, because at the moment I'm a kinesiology student, but I am very interested in finding ways to help the Black community. So how do you combine or differentiate between those two?
Between your purpose and your interests. Either combining or differentiating between purpose and interests.
Got it. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Interests can be helpful as you think about what your purpose may be. What questions or problems really bother you that you are intrinsically interested in trying to get to the bottom of solving? What puzzles in society are fascinating to you? Is it solving for climate change? Is it solving for people's mental well-being? Is it solving for how we get more electric cars on the road? I don't know. Is it solving for cancer because you've had loved ones pass away and you really want to find a cure to cancer because you're motivated, you're interested? That's fine. Interests are fine. It's important, though, that we reconcile the fact that our interests, if they are not pointing us in the direction of enabling human flourishing, are not the same as purpose. Right? Purpose is a question that people have been asking for millennia. What's the purpose of human life? And some people have been like, oh, the purpose of humanity is to just be happy. Some people are like, the purpose of humankind is just to perpetuate the species. That's kind of boring. Because there's some people who can't have kids or don't have kids or don't want to have kids or haven't had kids yet. And so if that's the purpose, then is all this just kind of like a warm up? Like, I don't think so. I think one of the definitions of purpose that I resonate with most closely is Aristotle, who talks about this idea of eudaimonia or human flourishing. And sometimes our interests can be very selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, nothing at all. You don't have to apologize for that. Self-care is fine. But don't confuse that with purpose. Our purpose, I believe, has to be in some way linked to human flourishing. And let me add one last point on that. Sometimes we think human flourishing means it has to be global. It has to be big. It has to be blue badge next to my name on social media to prove that I've got followers, I've got squad, I'm official, I'm verified. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes
That's right.
good is not better. Sometimes people are public successes, but they're private failures. So don't confuse scale for significance. Right? You can be doing amazing work with your life and have deep meaning to 50 people. And that's okay too.
That you got a lot of snaps and mms on that one. That was very good. Thank you. What a great question. Another great question.
Excellent
Yes.
question.
We got 2 more questions.
Hello, my name's Jonathan Chapman. Can you hear me all right?
Can you hear Jonathan?
Speak again, Jonathan.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you now.
All right, cool. So, you spoke about how your vocation encompasses like different paths, and when you're speaking about that, you actually mentioned you majoring in chemical engineering, and I myself am as well. So I was really attentive to when you were talking about that, and I feel like I'm discovering that myself, where I'm on a lot of different paths that might all like be encompassed under one vocation. So my question really is, I feel like it's really hard when I'm on all these different paths to remain present in that moment. How do you suggest go about feeling fulfillment in achieving your vocation if you're always thinking about the next path when you're trying to be present in one path?
Wow.
Wow, that's a deep question.
It is a very deep question.
Snaps for you.
Wow.
If you're always caught up in the next thing, then you're not going to be present in the moment. And you have to make some decisions about being present. Now, there are a lot of people, I remember when I was in college, I loved my advisor, but one of my advisors told me that I need to have a 10-year plan. And the point was, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. All right. And so you need to have a 10-year plan of where you want to be and what you're going to do. And you kind of backdate it, 10 years from now, here's what year is going to be. And here's what I need to do this year to get to the next year, the next year, and the next year. And that was overwhelming. And if there's anything we've learned from COVID, the race is not given to the swift.
That's right.
Or the battle to the strong, but to the one who endures.
That's right.
This is day by day, just like keep showing up. And so part of it is releasing yourself from the pressure to have it all figured out.
Oh yes, please let that settle in your spirits.
Like, please don't listen to this conversation. You're like, man, this vocational courage thing is interesting. Well, I got a chemistry lab on Monday, but I need to figure out my purpose. Right? And so you write that in your little planner. You're like, by Monday night, I must have my purpose figured out. Parker Palmer said this. He says, vocation is not a goal to be achieved. It's a gift to be received. Which means, you all, that one of the best things you can do, this is in line with your question, Jonathan. One of the best things you can do to speed up on purpose is to slow yourself down. To take yourself out of the status quo rhythm so you can hear and be. I told you all I took a sabbatical in August, but that wasn't my first sabbatical. I took that sabbatical in August because the previous year, I took an even longer sabbatical. Now you're like, sabbatical? That sounds like a luxury. I didn't stop working altogether. I just put certain pieces on pause.
Yes.
Right? And that allowed me to disrupt my status quo enough so I could hear differently and come off of autopilot. And if this pandemic has not given you an opportunity to press the pause button and come off of autopilot, you haven't pandemicked well. It's made up a whole new word. Pandemic. Pandemic is not a verb in real life, but it is tonight. You have not pandemicked well if you have not embraced the slower pace. Right? And if you can embrace the slower pace. Now, I know the South is already a slower pace than the North in some regards. I get that. I'm all in favor of going to the gas station and getting some sweet tea off I-95. I'm here for it. I've done it. Beautiful. However, if you can embrace a pace that is sustainable while you're young, you won't let life and other people's expectations spin you out of control like a top and have you falling over at the end. That's how you stay present in the moment.
Woo, Jonathan. Thank you. That was a great question.
It was.
We have one more, and I think we have a microphone now, so you might actually be able to hear her. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear her?
Speak one more time.
Can you hear me?
Faintly.
Thank you.
She said that's not good.
I feel like the microphone gets turned up slightly as the conversation goes on. So,
All right, she has moved closer, so
Okay. Can you hear me now?
sort of.
this is
Go ahead.
Francis.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Francis, and I had I had a question. I know you've been speaking on these past couple of questions about the importance of, the size of an impact not equaling significance, or releasing yourself from all this pressure and going at a slower pace. Not everything has to be figured out, but my thing is, I think especially for this population, we're all full scholars in college. I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I'm sure like a lot of us, if not all, have been like either identified as gifted in school or were poured into by a lot of people and saying, "Oh, you have a gift. You're so smart." Especially like Black people, like
Sure.
we want to like, I don't know, pour into our youth that we
Yes.
see something in. But I don't know if it's made a lot of us high achieving students like very people pleasing, because we center, I don't know, either, sorry, because I have to write some notes now.
She's reading her notes.
But so many of our actions in college or just our life goals are around making somebody proud. So if it's the people who poured into us, our family, or, how you were talking about Black people being centered on these brands and like wanting to be let into these doors that we weren't historically let into. But I think that's very antithetical to everything you said before about kind of this freedom from this capitalistic hamster wheel and vocational courage. And so I just wanted to know, like, I know you talked about the importance, but how do we get there, going from people pleasing to living in your true self and like getting to your true purpose that encompasses human flourishing?
They are just OMG. Yes, Francis.
Yes, Francis.
Deal with it.
Let's talk about it. So you talked about the gifted piece. I'll just tell my own story, is my perspective. So I was that kid. In Chicago, we have this kind of selective enrollment system. I never went to the school at the corner from my house. There was a school literally less than 1 block away from my house, and I went there a total of 1 day because the school bus didn't pick me up, and I wanted to have perfect attendance. You had to show up to somebody's school to get attendance credit for the day. I never went to my neighborhood school because I was in the gifted box, and I had to be bussed into some other neighborhood where the good schools were located. And then I got bussed to middle school and high school at a place called Whitney Young, that you may have heard of because Michelle Obama graduated from Whitney Young several years ahead of me, by the way, but still the same school. And, at Whitney Young, the conversation was not about, are you going to college? It was, which college are you going to?
Right.
Right. So I get that. At the same time, I recognize that there is a point at which all of your gifted and talented and developmental excellence have to be used on purpose and with purpose. And you will get to the point where the next step is not so obvious. All right. So perhaps for you, college was like going to 13th grade. Nobody asked you in 5th grade, do you want to go to 6th? It was just like, and when you come back in the fall, here's what you're going to do. And some of you graduated from high school and you were like, and in the fall, here's what I'm going to do. There was no optionality. There was no decision. It was just kind of, it was autopilot. And there comes a point in your life where all your gifts and talents don't get to stay on autopilot. you have to choose who you're going to be, how you're going to direct your gifts and talents to enable human flourishing. Some of you could be doctors and lawyers and journalists, and you could do well at any of those, but your effectiveness will dull if you're not mindful of which one or which ones are really central to your life's work. So, am I here to completely take other people out of the equation? By no means. I told my dad about the award I won from the Aspen Institute, and he said how proud he was of me, and that still moves me. And I'm grown, and I'm a dad. And to hear my father say he was proud of me just did something. Still, to hear my mom say, "I've never heard of the Aspen Institute, but I'm glad that you were in the New York Times." Right? I don't understand all what you do for a living, but I'm proud of you.
Yes.
And I'm proud that you have choices. And I'm proud that you're raising your family, and you're a good human.
Yes.
Right? So I'm not taking other people out of the equation, because we are built within, we are formed by, we are shaped within community. And so I'm not saying that we go off and just do our thing and who gives a care what people feel or think. We are community people. However, we have to let the community voices be in their proper place and not let the pull of what the community expects of us be louder than what our souls are demanding of us, or perhaps even what we're hearing. For those of you who are of faith, what you hear God saying to you, right? You have to pick which voice is going to be loudest. Not disregard all the voices, but know which voice is going to have the deciding, tie-breaking vote in your life. And that may be operating within the capitalistic system, but changing it, right? Or engaging in what some people are calling conscious capitalism, right? Where you're going about it a whole different way. You're playing on the same Monopoly board, but you're playing by a different set of rules, right? And that could be part of it, right? So finding your lane, finding your way to live your life in an authentic fashion that enables human flourishing in the spaces to which you are called is what I hope you're hearing. And the making the home team proud will be a byproduct of that.
That's it.
Right? But not the sole motive. And I'll just say one last thing. Sometimes you may have mentors around you who really mean well and want to steer you into a particular expression of living your life's work. And if it doesn't feel authentic to you, take the advice as coming from a good place, chew the meat, spit out the bones, and respectfully disagree to be bound by their definition of what they've seen. They may really mean well. Your parents may be trying to live vicariously through you and fix the things they didn't quite do well through your life. They mean well. But at the end of the day, you have to let your own soul have the loudest voice.
Ooh, these questions. I was not ready.
I was clearly unready. Sitting over here rocking like I'm in church. Like, woo.
I am so appreciative that they are thinking so deeply already at this point in their lives. I assure you, I was not thinking this deeply at the same point in my life. And man, many a day I wish I were. We don't have a relationship, and I am still very proud of you and being able to sit in this room with you, knowing if you are grappling with these kinds of questions now at this age, you are going to be a force to be reckoned with. You already are a force to be reckoned with. I can't wait to see what it is you do with your life in the coming decades.
I feel the same way.
They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing.
I'm proud of y'all. I only seen you all from like 500 feet away, right? But I'm proud to know that Black excellence is not dead.
Alive and well.
Alive and well. Keep
Alive
shining.
And well. My heart is full My heart is full. I'm so excited that we get a little bit of spillover tomorrow, and I hope to be able to pull some of the themes that you have surfaced tonight into some of our conversations tomorrow. But I just want to end with gratitude to you. Your gifts have indeed made room for you. I am so excited that I get to be in your orbit. The Dowdy Scholars are now in your orbit. Thank you so much for showing up with your full, authentic self tonight and giving us some nuggets of wisdom. I'm going to ask them to just give you a hand. Will you please? And I just want to extend gratitude to you all too. It is not lost on me that it is Friday night. There's a party happening somewhere, and if it hasn't started yet, it's soon to get started. You could be anywhere on a Friday night, and probably there's a little bit of requirement attached to the fact that you are here. But I'm still glad you're here. I'm glad that you're in this program, and because of your participation in the program, you have to be here. And I'm just proud of how you all have shown up tonight and what you continue to contribute. Tomorrow's going to be a full, fun day. And I hope that you come with a little bit of vulnerability tomorrow so we can explore the purpose path a little bit more deeply. Thank you so much, Dr. Pearce. Thank you again. I hope that soon when I am in Chicago, we actually get a chance to see each other in person. But tons of gratitude for you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You all have a blessed weekend. Be well.
All right.